Make a trade and go all in, or tank and go for Cooper Flag. What should the Sacramento Kings do in a precarious position in the NBA's Western Conference? We'll take a look. The latest trade rumors involving the Kings and what exactly is going on. Why are they struggling so much this season? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Only about 20% of the people watching this are actually subscribed. So if you're in that 80%, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button. We will do our best to make sure that you are not disappointed. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, Sacramento, a conundrum. You and I have spent a bunch of time today figuring out what the hell is going on with this team and what their path forward should be. Let me just ask you this. Are the Kings a good team?
Oh, that's a tough one. Firstly, right? I'd like to say this in relation to what you said earlier. When's the last time anybody watching has seen the Kings on a national outlet like ESPN or something like that? That's why you should subscribe, because while we have our teams that we cover a lot, we also try to hit the little guys in the Kings and some of the teams like that. So make sure you stick around. But yeah, I have no clue what to say because they are like so smack dab in the middle. They profile as a team that should be better than they are, but they aren't. And we spent a lot of time digging and finally come up with the answer, but it was pretty tough to see that.
Yeah, the Sacramento Kings, I think the bottom line, I truly believe they are better than their record. They are 9-12 right now in the season. They're plus 0.2 in point differential. That's ahead of some other teams that are ahead of them in the standings. Our Lakers are minus 1.3. The Suns are minus 0.7, though they missed Kevin Durant for a while. But Sacramento in a very weird spot, sitting outside of the play-in the Western Conference. Their pick is top 12 protected. And now you've got people like Kevin O'Connor here saying that Sacramento should tank. He says the Kings suck. Still too small, not enough shooting. Sabonis has too many limitations as a star. Poor coaching, time to make changes. Their first is top 12 protected this year and top 10 protected next year. Keeping those picks is in Sacramento's best interest long term. So he's saying sell assets, trade away players. They just traded for DeMar DeRozan over the summer. Now he's saying blow this thing up, tank, so that you can keep your pick this year and next year. Donnie, the Kings missed the playoffs for 17 straight seasons. They broke that streak. They missed the playoffs last year, falling in the final game of the play-in tournament to the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't think the Kings want to go backwards and tank, but should they?
Yeah, that's the tough question, because when you look at this team's history, they were so bad for so long, and they finally have had a couple of fun seasons and have had some hope that they can maybe build on that and go forward from there. And he's saying here, go back and tank with no consideration for where fans have been for the last couple of decades here. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they should go back and do it. I think that they are on the right track here. And like you said, they're probably better than their record would suggest, but I do think that they could be a team that is primed to try to make a couple of moves on the margins to improve this roster going forward, because they do have a few deficiencies that they could definitely improve on going forward. But I think you've already invested, like you said, with the DeMar trade, with the huge extension you gave Sabonis, with some of the extensions you've given out across the roster. But there is this lingering issue with extensions and De'Aaron Fox, and whether or not he's going to sign that and things like that. I expect him to, but there's still a question mark there. So I think all in all, they should just double down on what they have right now. But the problem is with doubling down, is this team going to go to the next level, or are they going to just kind of stay here? Right. But with their history, is staying here a bad thing? It's kind of weird.
Right. Yeah. I mean, is making the playoffs such a relief for them that you'll take just being part of the playoff process, even if you don't have the ceiling of winning an NBA championship. Now, looking at getting into their trade potential here, we know they don't want to move Keegan Murray. They've held him out of trade talks. He's also the guy, and we'll get into the latest reports in just a moment. He's also the guy that most teams want if they're going to trade with Sacramento. The guys they want to trade are reportedly Trey Lyles and Kevin Huerter, guys that teams would be less interested in. But the De'Aaron Fox thing, this is hanging over everything. De'Aaron Fox did not come to terms on an extension with the Kings over the summer, didn't want to get a deal done. He could still do an extension with them. If he is not committed long-term, I completely, because I agree with you, I am not tanking yet if I'm the Kings. I think they're too close to being in it in the West. And honestly, when I dig into the numbers, I think there's a fair amount of just bad luck hitting the Kings here. But if De'Aaron Fox is not in, if you find out by the trade deadline that De'Aaron Fox is going to bail summer after next when he's a free agent, I completely changed my answer. You put De'Aaron Fox on the trade market and you restart this thing. That's what the Kings need to be prepared for. If Fox is not in long, and I'm not saying he's not, because we don't know what his answer is going to be, but if he is not in long term, that completely changes everything for the Kings. And De'Aaron Fox would instantly become probably the best player realistically available on the market at this year's trade deadline if that were to happen.
Yeah, there was some talk as to why he didn't extend over the course of the summer. Basically, he wanted to be sure of the direction of the team and how they were projecting going forward. And also, obviously, as always is the case, money was a factor, and he's in hopes of getting a more lucrative deal. I don't really know what that looks like or what the offer was previously. But yeah, if there's any issue with De'Aaron Fox and his extension, then at that point, I think that you try to go from there and rebuild the team in whatever direction around Sabonis, I guess, at that point. But yeah, like you said, I do think some of the other guys are the guys that on the margins they'd be trying to get off of. And I think the most intriguing name is the one that people have been asking for in Keegan Murray. He's probably somebody that's underperformed relative to what they had expectation wise for him this year. He hasn't taken the leap forward despite playing more minutes, having a bit of a more fleshed out role. It's kind of weird to say because the way that the team has been built and then the addition of DeMar DeRozan, that kind of marginalizes some of the guys on the team. But regardless, they've put him out there. They've put trust in him. He hasn't taken that next step forward. But regardless, I do think he's somebody that you want to have in your organization going forward. I don't think he's given you a reason to say, let's move away from him or anything like that. And there's obviously a reason why teams would be looking for him. But I do think he's the most important piece in all of this. If he plays better, they obviously can start winning more. But he is also somebody that a lot of teams are targeting and could wind up netting them a big piece. So I think while I don't think you want to get rid of him, I think you do listen to offers and see what happens from there, because maybe they could combine some of these salaries if they're able to do that. I'm not sure. And put, get a piece that they don't really need another like perimeter player, but maybe they can get another player that can help them out elsewhere on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Keegan Murray, and he's 12.2 points. The 3-point shooting is a big drop off, 27% from three on 5.6 attempts. But that did he just suddenly forget how to shoot threes? No, and this is where I think there's some bad luck here hitting this team, and that they're actually going to be better when the dust all settles than what they are right now. So I think it is going overboard to try to tank at this moment.
Year 1 to year 2 3-point dip though.
There was also a drop there.
He might have actually low-key just forgot how to shoot. Like seriously,
you think as time has gone by that he's just forgotten more and more?
I don't think he's a 27% shooter, but last year is pretty damning. Last year's pretty damning. Taking that dip with the same volume is pretty damning.
Yeah, I mean, that's not great to see for sure, but
yeah, I think it's probably more of like a 30, somewhere in the middle, 38, but that's
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be just fine there. But on the trade front right now specifically, this is from Mike Scotto of Hoops Hype. Keegan Murray is the guy people are interested in. Devin Carter as well, potentially future draft picks, and they've got pieces. Vivek Ranadive wants to make a playoff run, so that's clearly what they want to do. But the Kings have dangled Kevin Huerter and Trey Lyles on the trade market and want to do so again this season. That's $25 million in salary. I wonder if we hit a point, though, where push comes to shove and the Kings say, you know what, bad luck or not, because frankly, when you dig into their stats, what's happened is guys have hit contested threes against the Kings at an insane rate, at a higher rate than we see in the rest of the league. So even contested shots, the Kings are getting lit up from behind the arc. And it's not just that they're leaving everyone wide open. Teams are hitting contested threes over them more than they are against other teams. So again, to me, that's where I think there's an element of bad luck, and that may normalize over time, because that tells me it's not that they're not covering the shot. It's that guys are making tough shots on them, and I think there will be variance in that. But all that being said, when you look at what the Kings have to offer here, if they want to make a significant move to put them up in the upper echelon in the Western Conference, they may have to come off of Keegan Murray, Devin Carter, the draft picks that they don't want to trade, because I don't see teams giving up much value for Kevin Huerter or Trey Lyles. So if they want to do something significant to in any way make up for the slow start, it may take making a difficult decision for them.
Yeah, do they have picks?
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
do? Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what their pick situation looked like, but yeah,
I'll pull it up.
yeah, I was also low key doing it myself. But they're kind of in a weird spot here because you don't know what you have in Carter. I don't think he's played this year. He got off-season surgery. So you obviously would like to see what you have there, but you're right. They don't really have a lot of options with what they can do because of the fact that they're in such a weird spot with the standings and all that stuff. But like, we kind of bury the lead a little bit. You said it there a moment ago where part of the reason why their record is what it is just variance and luck. I mean, we dug for a good bit to see
Mm-hmm.
why, because when you look at them, a lot of their players, their team overall is in a positive net rating. Their lineup data is pretty great. They have positives everywhere, but they basically have just been shot out in some of these games with the 3-point shooting, and that's caused them to lose some of these games they otherwise would have won. So they're in a weird spot with that. But I don't know. Like I said in the beginning, I don't know if they should be in a position to try to take that next step forward or if they are in that position yet, but they obviously want to be. Otherwise, there's no reason you go out and pick up DeMar in the offseason. So they're trying to trend in that direction.
If I'm Sacramento and you look at the Kings, their draft pick situation, their 2025 pick goes to Atlanta, but it's top 10 protected. I'm sure they would like to not have to have those protections come into play. Like they would like to send the 20th pick or something like that to Atlanta. If they tank, that would be incentive to do so because it's top 10 protected and they'd like to keep that pick. Otherwise, though, they've got a 2031 pick swap with San Antonio. Otherwise, they've got their future first round picks that they can play with out on the market. I'm sure teams will be interested in those. But yeah, I know you've got KOC who knows his stuff, well respected, saying the Kings are terrible and they need to switch this up. But I think looking at the history of this team, I'm not there yet. And when I look at, like you said, I think the bad luck factor that's here, if I'm the Kings, I would be a buyer. I would buy into the fact that I think regression will hit. I think they are better than what they've shown. I think there's some bad luck pushing them down as far as they are right now. And I think they still can make a run here. Now, does that mean they're ready to be a solid playoff team? No. And they could certainly use some things. Maybe moving Trey Lyles and just playing Alex Len more to have a little bit more size. That would be helpful. Maybe finding another power forward would be something that's helpful with this team. Somebody with a bit more physicality to play with Sabonis. That could be something that works out well for them. So I think there's avenues to making this team significantly better. Is there a path for them to become a true title contender? Maybe not, depending on what's out there on the trade market. But if I'm Sacramento and I've missed the playoffs as many times as they have, I think this team is better than what they're showing right now. And I wouldn't be giving up on them just to tank in this moment, because that would involve completely tearing down all of this. Otherwise, what's going to happen is they're going to try to tank, accidentally win too many games when regression hits, and then fork over like the 11th pick in the draft or something like that. And that is absolutely not what they want to do. I'm not taking my foot off the gas if I'm the Sacramento Kings. If anything, I'm exploring the market trying to buy.
Yeah, well, if you're going to try to tank, you've got to come off of. I mean, does that just
you got to get rid of everybody?
They put Fox on the market, like that's a quick turnaround to say in this offseason they would try to do that because of the protections around this. So yeah, I don't really think that's going to wind up being the case, but they've got several guys in that roster that they've extended, and they just extended Sabonis. It's going to be kind of hard to, say that you want to tank at that point. So I don't know. They're in a weird spot, but I wanted to ask you this to end. What do you think their record is at the end of the season? I mean, they're 9-12 or so right now. What do you think they get to? They had 46.
I'm going to say it took 46 wins to get to the play-in last year. I'm going to say they finished with 47. I'm going to say they get to 47 wins. I think they go on a decent streak, and they have a difficult strength of schedule, one of the most difficult in the NBA. But I think there's something more with this team, and I'm not out on them just yet. I think they're going to find a way to win some games here.
If they get to 46 wins with, I think, what did we say? There was a second hardest schedule remaining at this point.
They do.
Something like that. Like, obviously that shifts as players are in and out, teams' records goes up and down, but they've right now got projected to be the second. Like, if they get to 46 wins with that from here, I think this team is definitely, we're going to look back on this and say they were definitely better than this 9-12 start for sure. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's my belief with the Sacramento Kings. But everybody go check out our latest video on Walker Kessler. The Jazz have revealed their asking price for him. Will any team meet that price? Go check that out right now and let us know in the comment section what you think about the Sacramento Kings.